Hello and welcome to Absolutely Not. Thank y'all so much for being here. My name is Kay Maltautama Schroll. My pronouns are they, them, and you can learn more about me at my website, www.kschroll.com. Real quick, if you appreciate the work that I do here or elsewhere, please visit my coffee page where you can join the Warm and Boundary community, leave a tip, or buy one of my workbooks on boundaries and psychological safety. Support my work so I can continue to do this work. The keywords for this episode are scope of responsibility, integrity, and representation. I encourage y'all to look up the definitions of these words and compare them to the definitions you carry with you on a daily basis. If you need help comparing, please let me know.
Mommy?
Yes. Okay, thank you. This episode is not sponsored by nobody. If you would like to sponsor this episode or any following episodes, please reach out. I have a contact form on my website. Feel free to sponsor the next episode of Absolutely Not. But today's episode is titled, They Were Okay Before You Got Here. Yep. Take it in. And we'll be talking about this with Kirby Williams, she, her. Thank you, Bubba. Thank you so much. Kirby is a psychiatric nurse practitioner with over 11 years of experience as a provider in the mental health field. Currently, she provides adult psychiatric care on an outpatient basis through her private practice. Her passion for teaching and mentorship were the fuel to creating the PMHNP Source, which provides one-on-one consultation services and soon digital product offerings to empower, support, and guide psychiatric nurse practitioners through their career. She is a Black woman who is a nurse and Chi-Town's finest. Kirby, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited about this.
We were talking about this earlier. We spoke a while ago, and I just want to say thank you so much for, I thought I knew the word, and for staying true to this commitment and still being able to speak with me today. I really appreciate it.
Oh, no problem at all.
I want to get into, they were okay before you got here. Were they okay?
Well, yes. They were okay. I didn't say they were great. I didn't say they were fantastic or extraordinary, but they were okay before you got there. And that phrase comes from, and I've used it before with colleagues that I have worked with in the mental health space who do provide mental health care for different companies or employers, and they feel really bad about leaving once they have gotten to a space of maybe burnout, or a space of where their boundaries have, been crossed some more. And they feel kind of bad about leaving because they feel like they are leaving, patients behind, or leaving the organization or the company without a provider or a strong provider. And so that is usually a saying that I use. They were okay, again, just okay before you got there. So it's okay to remove yourself from that situation if it's bringing you much distress and overwhelm, for sure.
Ooh, I'm already getting flashbacks of organizations that I've been a part of and have made them more than okay. Quite honestly, my presence made them more than okay, and I did feel that guilt because I was leaving, and I knew that they were going to go back to the dumpster fire that they were when I got here. What do you say specifically? I mean, maybe to yourself. What have you said specifically to yourself when realizing that a dumpster fire is going to be a dumpster fire, even if they have a firefighter or if they don't have a firefighter?
If they have a firefighter. I like that analogy. My husband is a firefighter, so he'll like that analogy too. But some things that I tell myself is, I say, let's just thinking about an organization. Let's say it started in 1985. Okay, it's 2023. So y'all was going a while, whether extraordinary or not, you guys were going a while without me. So I talk to myself about that, like, okay, this company has been here for 30 years, 40 years, 50, whatever the case is. They've been going on. So you know, I can go. You know, I maybe only been a part of it for 2 or 3 years, or maybe no, sometimes 6 months. Sometimes it's like I got to get out soon. You know, 6 months. So I just tell myself, remember how long that employer has been around, whether they're doing good or doing bad. And so that I can remove myself because they're going to be okay.
Even in that statement, like, I thank you so much for being so honest, because that gives people a measurement, I guess, to look at, like, the culture. Like, y'all been here since 1903 or like, I know
Right.
what you were built on, one.
Mhm.
And I know that there's probably very little I can do to change, like, your values and in 2023. You
Right,
ain't
right,
seem
right.
like there's so much information out there. And we talked
Mhm.
about this when we first kind of conversated. Yes. Yes, go ahead. Is that there are so many Black people who are moving away from the mental health space, and they feel guilty about the lack of representation that is in the mental health space. What do
Right.
you kind of do to combat that, or what are you encouraging Black professionals when they feel that guilt?
Right. Yeah, that's really good. That's a really good question. You know, sometimes I ask them about how are there ways that they want to continue to serve Black people who do need mental health services. Sometimes they may be at the point of burnout where they're like, I can't do that right now, and that's okay. But if they say like, yes, I would, and I would talk to them about different types of options that are available, because it's not all about having your own practice. Having your own practice is one way, but it's not always. It could be through volunteer work. It could be through even giving of funds. If that is your love language, so to speak, there are opportunities out there to give to spaces that support Black people seeking therapy, for example. So I talk about, that there's some other ways that we can give to that space and make sure we're still helping Black patients or Black individuals who might have mental health concerns. There's still other ways that can be done. So it could be, like I said, it could be your own practice. That way, you're doing things your own way all the time, 100% of the time. Or it could be, giving time or money or energy to an organization that's already doing that. And you want to help support and uplift that organization.
There is so much of what you just said that I mean, I need it right now, and I'm not a psychiatric nurse, just because there are so many Black entrepreneurs who are seeing that in 2023, there are a lot of organizations who don't want to support Black entrepreneurs as they did 2 or 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So we are seeing that
Right.
quite rapidly and like in real time. And I love that you pointed out that everyone's journey is, like you said, right now. Like, even if I don't want to continue to do my own private practice right now,
Right.
the decisions I'm making, I can come back, I can do something else. You said volunteer work. Like, some of us,
yeah.
while we may not have the capacity, that's still something that we're able to do, so that we can still kind of stay connected to what we actually do if we have to do something else.
Right. Yeah.
Specifically as a mental health, or excuse me, as a psychiatric nurse, especially in outpatient, like, that's heavy work, heavy work. How are you affirming that, like, this is the work that you want to continue to do, I guess?
I think I'm affirmed by my patients who do give me, Black people, we give each other feedback, usually pretty without being asked. We give each other feedback. And so my patients are really good at always giving me feedback about it, or feeling relieved when they see my face when they walk in the door, because my name is Kirby. Most people think that that's a white male that they're about to see until they turn the corner to my office. They assume that they're going to see, a white male, and then they turn my office. They're like, yes. And so you get that feedback. Pretty easily from the patient, and sometimes even from the family member. If you're maybe seeing someone who is a little younger, or seeing someone who has more severe symptoms, who might not can give you that verbal feedback. So that affirms like, okay, I am in the right space. And then while I'm even working with or some of the clients, what I've seen is that, oh, there's my little one who I thought was napping. Okay, sorry. Well, um, sometimes while I'm working with the clients, what I find out and what affirms me also is that there is a lot of history and research about Black persons being overly diagnosed with like schizophrenia, for example. There's other things too, but just using that as the example. And so as we're really talking together with the patient and with the family and realizing that the patient already thinks that that's not the correct diagnosis, but then me saying like, no, I'm in agreement with you. I also do not think that is correct. That makes me realize, oh, I do need to be in this space, whether it's doing, the direct patient care work, as we call it, or, supporting the mission of the work, because those kinds of things are happening. Those kind of disparities are happening in mental health care.
That word disparities. I appreciate you bringing it to the conversation because it's so very real. There is a reason why so many Black mental health practitioners, in whatever form they come in, are moving away from the field. And it's because the disparities are present and Black practitioners are being expected to fill those, like, with so much knowledge that wasn't even provided while y'all were getting trained. Like, you're going from experience, you're going from like real-time experience, and it's heavy to do. I think you mentioned when we spoke earlier is that you've had colleagues come to you when those disparities show up in their own work, and they come to you as a Black practitioner. How do you kind of set boundaries in that kind of like education / doing my job / I gotta represent
right
base?
Oh, yes, there is, yes, a lot of that balance. One of the things, and you were talking about like a non-Black colleague. Yeah, okay, I felt it, but I want to be sure. I think we're there. So usually what I've had to do is actually one time more specifically, I was working in a space where about 95% of the patients who came to this clinic were Black. And I was the only Black provider. And I was called on quite often to help with emergent or urgent situations. And so I said, I am the only Black provider here. And there are, let's say, 2,000 patients, who come to this clinic. I by no means can see 95% of 2,000 on my own. I by no means can take care of 95% of 2,000. And what was y'all doing before I got here? And there's also that. I'm confused because it was one of those places that had been open since I think like 1970 something. So what were you doing? Waiting on me? I was born in 1985, but you waiting that long? Like what? What were you doing?
This is going to hurt a lot of people's feelings. Not hurt our feelings, but kind of like put it in so much perspective. If you ever feel guilty, or if you ever feel like, what is happening? Write down those numbers. I was born in such and such date. This was established in such and such date. We have 2,000 patients.
Right.
We have 50 practitioners. How the hell am I getting sent? Like, it's not adding up. It's not aligning. And therefore I'm like X equals burnout. X equals, I'm not going to be able to stay here long. And it also X or Y equals this is how y'all like work. This is how y'all have been working. And this is how you work. I don't work like that.
Right.
When you were talking about urgency, like the way that people who are not Black see anything to do with Black people as urgent, like this needs to be resolved right now in the form of violence, in the form of overdiagnosis. I thought about the disparity between, so I am diagnosed with PTSD, and how so many times they tried to diagnose me with bipolar, and how that's like a real thing. Black people and Black women specifically are often diagnosed with bipolar disorder instead of PTSD, because whiteness and da, 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 da. But
Right.
but what has that ever occurred like in real time for you, like misdiagnosis like that? And two, I guess, how far of a history lesson, I guess, do you usually, like, how far do you crack the textbooks open, or do they just take your word?
Yeah. So usually not cracking any textbooks open, and that's mostly because of time, to give a history lesson. Mostly what I try my best to do is focus on, like, what kinds of symptoms are we seeing, or is the person actually experiencing? And a lot of times what is being experienced as urgent is someone who is Black, someone who is loud, and someone who is, I would say, speaking passionately, but someone else might say speaking aggressively. So I would say, if we just connect, if we just look at those things and we look at our book, that we use, or books that have helped us in training, we'll see that doesn't equal, like you said, why that doesn't equal schizophrenia. It don't say in the books that we were trained on, like, schizophrenia mean loud, and that's it, period, hard stop. It don't say that. It doesn't say, that it means someone speaking passionately, or someone even doesn't even mean irritable. I mean, that's not what it says. We have to go by, like, what does it actually say? What is actually, what did we actually get trained on? Not just like, oh, they're like this, so they must have that. No. So I try to focus it on that, because I think in real time, and when you're are treating patients and have a full schedule and managing a lot of things of one's health, let's just talk in real time here, because going back in history, I might be there for a while, because we had to go back to 1619. So we'd have to go all the way back, and we're going to be here for a minute.
And I appreciate you providing those examples of what to do in that situation, because the patient's care is what's, like, utmost important in that situation. So I really don't care what you understand right now. Let's let's focus on the patient. You talked about excuse me. Let me get back to what I was saying. Okay. The history lesson, should someone ask for it? I guess, or someone's asking for a history lesson, how do you respond to that? Like, even if it's like after the incident, probably. Yeah. How do you respond to that?
I would have to direct them to a book. Don't mean to be mean, but I don't want to say, like, oh, I'm not hired for that, but I'm not hired to give history lessons, but I would direct them to a book. And there is actually, I'm going to pick it up. There's actually a really good book. Because I'm working on a presentation. So it's right here. It is Black Mental Health. It says patients, providers, and systems. And I think this came out in 2020, I believe. And actually that's what I've done some presentations about, bias and Black mental health disparities. And I have directed people to that book. I just talk about, like, what can be done in the immediacy. But then if you want some, hard facts and evidence and deep dive, book all day. Just because that's not my specialty is not history. I specialize in kind of what you just said, like, patients right now in the moment, how do we help them in the immediacy? And if you need history to help you help them, that's fine, but I'm gonna direct you to a book. Yeah.
I love this so much. There's so many scripts in there that you say, like, my specialty is not history. Like, let me just teach you that's a line right there, like, first and foremost. I don't know if you see my name tag, but that's truly not what I'm here to do. I love that patient health is the utmost importance to you. There are a lot of people in the health field who that's not the main priority. It's like numbers and getting patients through the door, and and there are a lot of people who are not psychiatric nurses, who are going to be listening to this and thinking about the amount of extra work that Black practitioners have to do and Black patients have to do. As far as patient advocacy, guess that's the same lines then. Like even as a patient, I could say I'm not a historian.
Yeah.
Are there any other lines that you would suggest Black patients say?
Right. I think that is a good one. I'm not a historian. I'm not, I think I'm not a lecturer or teacher and all that kind of stuff. I think those are actually important because no one should be looking to any patient to teach, me as a provider, anything. The only thing I would say, patients are teaching me about something, but that's just them themselves, not like the whole history of their Blackness but yes, teach me about, you and what you've been through. Yes, you're teaching me that, but not teaching me a whole history of, Black mental health or Black mental health misdiagnosis, things like that. I think that's important. And, I think also a thing to ask, maybe even in the beginning of a encounter, if a Black patient is working with someone who is a non-Black provider, asking them how does that provider see their relationship, that, and again, only if you feel safe, I should say, preface it with that. If you don't feel safe, don't ask it if you're not in a safe place or don't feel safe, or, but if you are trying to say like, okay, I am going to try to work with this person, the best way that I can, you could ask them, how do you see our relationship, engaging and interacting together, because of the differences in our race. You could ask that. That would be totally reasonable question to ask. They might have to say, can I get back to you? Because they probably never heard that before, and that's okay. I mean, I'll say that's okay. But that is something good for them to think about because it affects us.
I appreciate that that's okay. There may be discomfort, there may be other emotions that arise when you ask that question, but as you stated, it's for your safety. It's for the overall relationship. Like this is probably going to be a long-term relationship, whatever your stay is, or like it's going to be a while. So you want to feel comfortable and you want to feel safe in that practitioner's presence.
Exactly. And if they say something like, oh, it doesn't affect me at all, that's also information. You can do what you want with it, but that's also information then for the patient to say, maybe not a good fit, not even based on their race, but just based on that response. Not a good fit.
Yeah, because you didn't even think about it. You just
or try to think about it.
No, it's like, thank you so much. Let me write that down. To the practitioners or to the psychiatric nurses that are listening to this and thinking, I've been expected, the Black mental health practitioners who are probably listening to this and thinking, I've been expected to be a historian multiple times this week. What would you suggest them do?
Yeah, that's another good one. Well, I would say too, if they feel like, and I always preface things with if people feel safe, because there are sometimes I've talked to some colleagues and they're like, I don't. And I usually say, well, then just get out. I mean, and that's okay too, if you don't, but I say, if you feel safe and want to try to make this, employee or job relationship work, then I would say, I hate to say have a meeting, but it starts there sometimes, having a meeting with just even your direct supervisor about some of these instances. And then also, if you feel like you're in a safe space when someone asks you a question that is asking for like historical information, to say that sentence we said earlier, I am not a historian. I do understand you want some information so that you can help provide better care to Black patients, which is great. Let me preface it with, that is great. That is good. I like it. But, I usually say I don't have the capacity to, go over all of these things, or even the capacity to take on all your patients who are Black, because sometimes that's a beeline that happens. I've seen in some spaces, I don't the capacity to do that, but saying those kinds of things. And then sometimes what I have done is saying like, well, I do know this great DEI consultant, and boop, in I drop a, Black person with expertise in this space, and that might be something that your workplace might want to do or engage in.
I love all this information because it's very real. It's very like this is how conversations go. It's not like it could happen in real time and very quickly, but most of the time it's very much, you've been asking me a lot lately. Like I was how many Black people do you know? Like, let's start, like, what's like, because why is this something that's my responsibility?
Right.
Yes, go ahead. I also love that at the beginning of your statement was like, if you don't feel safe, you need to leave. That permission off bat, like if you don't even feel safe to have that conversation, means you've probably seen this behavior in like different lights from your supervisor or whoever's asking for help. Yes. Okay, go ahead. Thank you so much. Almost okay, thank you. But I love that permission because so often, let me speak for my own family. My Black relatives will tell me, "Well, that's a good job. Like you like people love that job. Like they've been around
benefits.
Yes, they've been around since 1970. So obviously, it's a good job." Have you ever been told that your job is a good job and you shouldn't leave?
Yeah, all the time, not all the time, but that's a little dramatic, Kirby. But I would say that I have been told that about most of the positions that I've had, because I'm a person, I like to work in the community health space. So most of those are, city-based or state-based, and they do come with what they call the good benefits, the good benefits. And so, being told that, and I will say, well, it's a good job, but it's not a great job. And maybe it's not a good job for me. So that's, kind of how, I usually, because if it's a family member who's asking me, I usually go into more detail about that, but that's usually the top two one-liners.
And full circle, we just went full circle because that's a good job. They were okay, right? They were okay before you got there, and I know you brought your magic with you, and I know you brought like every kind of initiative that you took, but they were okay before you got there, and it is a good job. I promise you, 1,000%, you probably find better. You'll probably find safer. You're probably going to find. So thank you so much for that permission. Like there's just so much permission in everything that you talked about today, because I think especially in the mental health field, there's so many messages like that Black mental health practitioners need to stay because they're needed. Like, and we have covered it so much in this episode, but you saying like, no, fuck that. Like literally. Like if you have to leave. Because I want to know, I guess before we wrap up, I want to know who told you that.
Which part?
That it's okay to leave.
Oh, I don't think I remember. I don't know if it came after some years of it. I don't know if anyone has necessarily told me, or if they're watching it and they did, I'll give you credit on the back end. But I can't remember if anyone actually told me. But I'm very self-reflective. I like to journal a lot, things like that, and so I do check in with myself. And then I can reflect back and let me look, these last 12 months, been real rough. What's that from? I can kind of take a look at that. And so I think a lot of it came from myself, saying like, yeah, this is not working out for me, or this is how I've been feeling since I've been here, or like that, people say the Sunday scaries, that type of feeling, but not even just that, but like, if you feel like dread going into a place, or even some people have described it as like physically ill. No, that's a nah. That's a sign that something is not aligned for whatever the reason. Actually, it doesn't even matter the reason, but something is off, and we need to cut it from the team. we need to separate things out. We need to get it separated.
Okay, first of all, let me touch on the analogy real quick, because I love that. I love analogies, metaphors, all of that. But cut it from the team. That's even deep, because like, who's on your roster, baby? Like, are they good? Is everybody first string? Oh, like,
Who's on the roster?
yes.
I like that.
Have we been looking? Do we even care? Like, let's write it down a little bit. Let's write it down a little bit. But also the fact that I asked you who told you that, and basically your answer is me. Damn, like, first of all, I didn't know that was an option. I'm about to start doing that. I'm about to start telling. I did a lot of work. I be working.
I be working.
Yes. So let me give credit where credit is due. I love that. Another permission granted in this episode. So I hope anybody who's listening to this is like, you know what, for real, I be working. I am giving myself permission, and that is enough. That is more than enough. Enough, Baba. Thank you. To anybody who is listening to this and like, you know what, I dread going into that place, and I'm sure that it was a dumpster fire. No, I'm positive it was a dumpster fire when I got here, and I have made it significantly better by just being here. To the people who are having these thoughts processes, probably taking as many notes as I have, what would be the top 3 tips you would share with them about deciding, I guess, if deciding if this place was okay before they got there?
Yes. Well, what I would tell them is, I would say, reflect back on how you felt when you started the position and how you felt more recently. So maybe in the last 4 weeks. And if there's been a strong change, that's a sign. Also, use the numbers kind of like I did. It may sound nerdy, but sometimes giving myself those concrete numbers really helps. Like, okay, this organization started in 1972 and it's 2023. Okay. All right. Well, they've been standing for that long. Okay. I can leave. So even doing some work like that. And then thirdly, what I would say is, to think about why you wanted to come into the space of, if you're a mental health provider or you're a healthcare, but think about why you wanted to come into that space. And is this job or this current place of employment, giving you the joy for that? Is giving you that joy or that sense of fulfillment of the reason you came into this space? And those are some things to really, think about and reflect on. And then it's a fourth thing you didn't ask me, but the bonus is then plan your exit strategy if that's what you need to do.
And I'm 100% positive those numbers will help in all of that. Especially like when you were talking about numbers, I was like, and your salary, babes. Like, how much does this organization make compared to your salary? Yeah, they will be fine. Like, I'm just. They will figure it out. Probably
they will.
Maybe
they will.
And even if they don't. I don't. It does not align with, like, it doesn't connect to you. Like, if they burn down, like,
right, that doesn't have to do with right.
Has very little to do with you. Thank you so much for all of that information, and I hope anybody who's listening to this is able to really just like take a deep breath and be like, okay, let's write. Let's just get it on paper, and we'll see where we go from there. And if you need help, I know an amazing psychiatric nurse practitioner who can help you, especially if you're a nurse practitioner. So please reach out. Are there any last minute sprinkles you'd like to share with the audience?
I would just say, as far as any last minute sprinkles, just know that you have permission. You have permission to leave. You have the permission to say, if people are asking you to be the Black People Museum, as I used to call it when I was in college, I know I didn't mean to drop that at the end, but if you are being asked to be the Black People Museum, you can say, no, I don't have time for that. No, I'm not the historian, or I don't even know what the museum person is called, but I'm not that person. It's okay to say that because you are not the museum. You are not, but I know sometimes that's what it feels like.
There go y'all's gym. There go.
Yeah.
Like, this is oh my gosh. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
I hope anybody who's listening, Kirby's information will be in the show notes when this is published. So please feel free to reach out to her. She has amazing resources. If you are listening to this, keep setting those boundaries and saying absolutely not to anything unaligned. We will see you next time.
Mhm.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.